Good morning. This webinar is being recorded after the fact of the lead SLP monthly call on August 14th. That call had to be canceled unexpectedly, and this is the recorded webinar for it. As you can imagine, this school year is going to be very different from any school year we've experienced in the past. There are going to be a lot of changes, a lot of flexibility needed, and a fluid situation that we'll be dealing with. So we're going to start off with some of the big pieces, and then each week until time for schools to reopen, we'll be discussing more topics and more questions as they arise. You can see we have a large agenda, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is one of my favorite sayings. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference, and it really does. I think this school year, as opposed to any other, we're going to be facing not only challenges according to the COVID-19 pandemic, but also challenges in the way therapists within your counties approach the situation. We all feel more comfortable when we are in our comfort zone and we know what's expected and we have our routine, and we don't have to change anything because that's what we normally do. But this year, we're going to have to make some changes. There's no way around it, and it's happening to everyone, not just one particular county or one particular therapist. So I think the way you lead your county in this process is going to make the difference as to how the therapists within your county approach it. It's not going to make a difference for everyone because we all know there are some people who are going to be anxious about it no matter what we do. And that's okay. We can help support them as well. But we just need to understand that and realize that we can't please everyone. But I think if you approach the situation with a positive attitude and you tell them that we're going to be supporting them, we're going to provide as many trainings as we can, as much access to materials as we can, and as many ideas as we can of how to approach all of the challenges that we're going to be facing. I'm hoping that'll make some difference for them if they just feel that they're not alone and out there trying to survive this by themselves. And the same goes for you. I want you guys to know that we are there to support you. Libby and I and everybody in our office is there to support you. Whoever we need, we can get on a call. What information we need, we can have a webinar made. We're there to support you, and we'll do our very best to do that this year. We are all in this together. Sometimes people feel like they're out there all alone, and that's a terrible feeling. No one likes to feel that way. And especially now when there are going to be so many questions, I think that it's important for you to be thinking about how you want to receive those questions and that kind of thing from your therapist, because you're going to be getting them. There's no doubt about it. But just know that as you provide those responses and as you prepare to meet these challenges, that we're all in this together. We're going to be different. We're going to be farther than 6 feet apart. Of course, we're going to be miles away, but still with the teams that we have, teams capability, and the way we can teleconference and that kind of thing, we're going to actually be able to probably offer more trainings and more support than we have in the past. So just know you're not alone either. One of the things that I think will help support you and your speech therapist in your district is to go to the WVDE reentry information site and open the reentry toolkit. There is so much good information in that toolkit. I think it's about 7 pages, but there's some really good information in there, and I think it's valuable enough for you to go ahead and try to print it off and keep it for your reference, because it's going to be something I think we'll be referring back to for the next months to come. I've provided you the link to this document, and I think it's important for you to be familiar with it as far as the terminology is concerned. It's a public school option for parents as they determine how they want to reenter the school system this year. It's available on our website, and the document is just a one-page document, but it describes each one of the options. In-person blending instruction, which means that the student may be in school part of the time, face-to-face instruction, and they may be receiving virtual support part of the time. But on the days that the student isn't in school, learning will continue at home. Virtual learning means that every county has to offer that as an option to parents. But I've gotten a lot of questions from SLP saying, if a student goes to virtual learning, does that mean that we dismiss them from speech? The overall general response to that is no, because you have an IEP that shows that person has a disability and that it affects their access to their educational environment. So we'll be discussing those, how we can make that determination at our next meeting. But I want you to be familiar with the difference between virtual learning, where there's instruction going on full-time, same as the school day essentially. And if in the event of a school closure, virtual learning continues on just like it has, because that students been being served virtually all that time anyway. There's been some confusion though between the difference of virtual learning and remote learning. And with remote learning, that means that there's a temporary closure due to an outbreak of COVID-19 cases, and it could be in a school, or it could be in a county, or it could be called by the governor if he should happen to say that we need to go to remote learning again. Then that's what this means. And it requires that all students receive all of their services virtually. So we'll be talking about that soon, but I think to become familiar with these scenarios is very important. The other important thing is to read your county reentry plan and make sure you know that backward and forward, because that's going to determine how you provide your services within your county. Because this year the plan is not to have an overall general remote learning be called, but to have it done by county as the cases start to be on the uprise within that county. On the website too, there are also some focus areas, and these are the focus areas that a task force spent the summer working on. And you can see there were a lot of things that had to be considered in order to have school reentry happen. There is a section on special education, and if you click on that button, you'll have all types of bulleted lists of things to consider, resources that are available, and that kind of thing. So be sure and check out that special education section as well. When we talk about scheduling with the 3 scenarios, it's going to be a challenge for us because we are so used to the traditional schedule of back-to-back 30 minutes all day long. Seeing students 1 or 2 times a week is what we've traditionally done, and that's definitely going to have to change. If we should go to time where your county is in full remote learning and you should have to see 50 students all remotely, that's going to be almost impossible to do. We found that out last spring. So you'll be hearing from your special education director as far as plans for remote learning plans and that kind of thing. They'll be doing the training on that for you and how they're doing that within their county. So, please be sure to attend those trainings. Of course, I know you would. You're not going to want to miss any trainings as far as this year's concerned, but that's going to be an important one for you to understand how these scenarios will work. And when we're on a live call this coming Friday, we'll discuss this at more length. But just know that the 3-to-1 model is going to be probably very important this year. I don't see much way that we can get all of the scheduling and the varieties of types of scheduling we're going to have to do without it. I just sent out an email with all the links to the virtual the virtual forum that was held this summer, August 3rd through the 7th, and there was a 3-to-1 session there, and we'll be definitely talking more about it and doing more training. So I just wanted to mention to you that that's something we are going to have to consider. I know you already know that, but I want you to know that we'll walk through it together and try to come up with some different responses to each model together. There is a document on our website. It's called the COVID-19 Recovery Services versus Compensatory Services document, and our office wrote it. And with this, we talk about the difference between services that you need to provide due to COVID-19, which OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs, and the Department of Education feel are a little different than normal compensatory services. Some states maintain the name compensatory services, but West Virginia decided to use COVID-19 recovery services is what we will call those services. As far as how to address them, your special education director will be talking with you about that and providing guidance. But the big thing I want you to know is it's not a minute-by-minute, session-by-session amount of time that you'll have to provide. If you provided support and services last year, then you should have documentation about how the student was doing then. And most states suggested that you use the first 30 days of school to try to gather data on the student and determine where they're functioning right now, and determine what you need to get them back to where they're making meaningful progress on their goals. With some students, that's not going to take very long. You could use a dynamic assessment approach and do some test and reteach type activities and see if you can bring them up to speed. Some students, we know, parents worked with them all summer and they may be even ahead of where they were the last time you saw them. But there are going to be some students that you might have to provide some services to. And when we're on a live call this coming week, we'll also discuss those. But I wanted to give you time to look through this document so you could have some questions ready. Be sure and notice that there are some suggestions of information that needs to be considered when you're trying to consider these services. And come with your questions this Friday. We finally have the SLPA document in our graphics department. As you can imagine, there are all kinds of offices that are trying to put out documents before school starts. So ours is in the process, and as soon as it's available, we'll be sending out the link to that document to you guys. One of the things that we did add this year was the ability of the SLPA to draft IEPs so that you're not having to do all of that prior to having an IEP meeting, but it definitely needs your final approval. We'll provide you a list of the changes in the guidance document, and I have my fingers crossed that we'll have it this Friday too. But Libby has already created some modules for us, and we have a new supervision plan that's also being designed in graphics. Because our website is not updated, our whole Office of Special Education website hasn't been changed yet because there's been so much work on the reentry side of things. So we're going to try to create an SLPA channel in our group so that all the information that you need and that kind of thing will be there. So we'll talk more about that once we have it all set up for you and you can see what it looks like and we can go through it. But please don't use any of the new forms. I'll try to get the supervision plans out to you by tomorrow morning. This is Monday. I'll try to get those out to you by Tuesday morning. I checked with Marshall. Marshall has been in charge of doing our supervision modules that we've been doing to meet the ASHA and WVDE requirements. We have professors at both universities, WVU and Marshall, creating 3 modules for us, and these will be approved for ASHA CEUs. We had hoped to have them ready by August, but as you can imagine, their lives have been impacted as well by the pandemic, and so they are trying their very best to get it to us by September 1st. Since you won't start your observations and your supervision by then, I'm hoping that you'll be able to watch these modules instead of having to do the separate 5100 module on the e-learning website for the WVDE requirements and doing the separate CAPSID modules. I have requested a new set of CAPSID codes though from Marshall, and I'll post those as soon as I receive them. Libby and I certainly don't claim to be Marie Kondo, but we are definitely trying to reorganize your information to make it easier to access and to make things better for you so that you have things at your fingertips. We have been unbelievably swamped this summer with different projects we've been on and different projects within our office. Plus, we've done some things that were extra that we hadn't planned on doing, like applying for a federal grant. So we are in the process of trying to reorganize your information now. And one of the things we're going to try to do is finish our YouTube channel, private YouTube channel, so that private practitioners have access to all of our videos. Training videos from Jane Brandel all the way to telepractice and things we've been doing. So we're trying to build a OneDrive folder for you that you can have all of your speech information included in. we're also working on one that will be just for the other SLPs, so they don't have to go to you every time they need a document, but we'll have specific documents that pertain to leads or anything that you would do in a separate OneDrive for you. So look forward to that being here by September at the latest. One of the projects we were into this summer was we found out that the Department of Early and Elementary Learning sent out 55,000 books to students who would be upcoming first and second graders. And with that, they sent some things home for parents to do, teachers did, for parents to do with the students as they read those books. Well, in order to begin on our journey this year to promoting language and literacy, we went ahead and created speech and language activities for the parents to be able to access this summer as well. Libby did the heavy lifting on these activities, but we were able to work a couple of weeks straight and get those posted online, and I just wanted you to know that those are available. If we find out that that program will happen again this summer, we'll be doing it again. We might ask for some suggestions from you guys too, but we really want to put it on the radar that SLPs can help with literacy as well. And there are a couple other projects that we're involved in that are promoting that too. So I just wanted to put that on your radar so you know that this type of thing is coming. We will be having our AT Boot Camp. Last year we tried to do it within the new special educator boot camp, and honestly I think we only had one person who signed up, and I never met that person. I don't know if she was there at the boot camp or not. So what we've decided to do is going to have to be virtual. Any training that the Department of Ed provides this school year is going to have to be virtual, but that gives us a huge leeway as far as how we can schedule it and the topics we can consider and the support we can provide after the boot camp, which is what we've wanted to do all along anyway. So I just wanted you to know, if you have new therapists, new SLPs, or you have someone who you think might benefit from it, they are more than welcome to come. We'll still be providing the same resources we've provided in the past, and you know, just try to see what we can do virtually. And with the virtual support too, there'll be videos that they can go back and watch. TelePractice support. We are very lucky and we are very thankful that Rhea Dyer has agreed, and as a matter of fact offered, to provide continued support for us as far as telepractice is concerned. Any of those of you who attended her session last year know how much we learned, know how many tips she offered, how many suggestions, and she was more than happy to answer any questions. So all of those videos from last year, there was one at the end of the year that did not turn out, but we do have the PowerPoint for it. All of those videos are still available. Plus, we've added the overview to telepractice that she just did for us on August 7th. It's listed in that YouTube channel, that channel as well. If you don't belong to our telepractice support group, I'm going to attach a fact sheet about how to join it. If you have therapists who say that they don't understand telepractice, they haven't been trained, This is going to provide some of the training that they need, because there's no other way to get it. And there's no option this year as far as not providing telepractice support. It's going to have to be done in some cases, not all year long, but there are going to be some cases that we have to provide it. And when that happens, we need to be ready to go. I'll be sending out the dates of those trainings, and I'll send it in a separate listserv message so that you can forward it on to your SLPs in your county. Now, this is where I wanted to get your ideas on how we can support you, but since we had to reschedule this, if you have questions or ideas for how we can support you, please post them in our Teams group. That way you can see what the other people have posted, they can see what you've posted, and then we'll respond to your questions or ideas of support that in that location. Your questions, like Libby told you Friday, and like the message said on the Teams group, just be sure and put your questions, post them in our Teams group, and we'll respond to them there. The big thing I want you to understand is I want you to relax, because we are in this together. I know it's going to be a challenge, but you know what? We've risen to challenges in the past and always met them. In a lot of cases, far exceeded them, and we'll do the same thing this year. So just know that we can do this. We've got this, and we're ready for the school year to start. By the time it starts, we'll be ready.